What's up, guys? I'm Lesego, the other half of Voy Creative, and today we're going to be giving you 5 tips for shooting in small spaces. Okay guys, to kick it off, we're gonna start with lensing. There's 2 preferences here. It's prime lenses and zoom lenses. We'll kick it off with the zoom lens. So here, it's cool because you have multiple focal lengths just by the flick of your wrists. And shooting in small spaces, you actually need that because sometimes you don't have the luxury of moving forwards and backwards. Just by the flick of your wrist, you can go from a 50 to a 35 and you don't have to do much work. And it's cool on your pocket. And then we have the prime lens. Prime lens, you just need to work a little bit more harder. You need to move forwards, backwards, just to frame your model. You don't have the luxury of just flicking your wrists and expecting everyone to be in the frame. So there's a lot of varieties here. You can go from a 50 like we have over here to a 35 that we're shooting on now to even this 85 here. It's just that your focal length will move and you need to move back and forward as the photographer. And my preference, zoom lens in small spaces. Here you can just get a lot done and you won't have to move back and forth that much. So this will be cool on your pocket and it will save you time.
So on my end, I'll kick it off with getting creative with your lighting. And I think it's quite important to consider your lighting when you're shooting in a small space. You'll find that sometimes you don't have the luxury of having 2 or 3 lights and you're forced to work with 1 light. Where you use a full light, you have to use a wall to bounce the light back to use as a fill. You'll find that sometimes the room is so small, it's bouncing lights all over, and you have to start maybe being smart with how you introduce negative fill. You know, it really just forces you to kind of get creative with it. It won't always be the same, rooms are not the same, they're not painted the same color, so you have to also just understand how that light is bouncing in those different rooms. And I think what I really love about it, it really teaches you about lighting, it really teaches you sometimes how to work with less. So I think, yeah, man, learn how to work with your lights, learn how to work with 1 light, learn how to work with 2 lights, maybe in a bigger space, but just start understanding your lighting and how light just bounces off different surfaces, and even the distance, you know, understand how light is affected when it's close or far, because you will kind of work in rooms that are different sizes, that are different color, like painted different colors, and they're just different shapes. So really understanding that will really help you get the most out of your lighting. So the next point that I want to talk about, which I feel is really important, is shooting with your edit in mind. When you're shooting in a small space, you don't have the luxury of having a lot of width and a lot of height. So sometimes when you really want to create scenes that feel big, you know, you don't really have that luxury in the small space that you're shooting in. So I would recommend that you shoot plates, take your model out the scene, get like clean shots of your background or your scene, so that later in post you can really move them around, you can extend the sides, you can extend the top and bottom, you know, and it really just gives you more flexibility when you're editing, especially if you do want to create those big, beautiful, big environments where you were shooting in quite a small space. So I'd say really consider how you're going to edit while you're shooting, so you don't really work too hard when you're editing, you don't edit extensively, but you kind of edit quite smart, and it really just impacts the overall production of your images. On this one, let's talk about costs. Shooting, I guess, in small spaces or spaces that are available to you really help with saving money. Studio time really comes at a cost to you, and it's by the hour. And realistically speaking, we all know that when you plan the shoot, it never really sometimes starts on time because people are still doing makeup or still working on wardrobe. So that really does cut on your shooting time. And again, that will result in you guys kind of going over, and that's an extra cost to you as well. And I think you can take that money if you're shooting in your own space and really put it back into your own production, where you can hire that makeup artist you've always wanted to work with. You can put it back into styling. You can hire the lens that you wanted to hire, knowing that it will give you a better outcome on the images that you're taking. So I really think, as great as it is to shoot in studio, I think sometimes just using those spaces that you have available to you really go the distance. If I had to put some of the work we've shot in super small kitchens and TV rooms and bedrooms, you'll find that it's really on par with some of the stuff we shot in studio. So just something to think about, studio versus shooting in your small available space. I think if you can, take that money and rather put it back into your overall production.
And then guys, we have our last point, organizing your space. So sometimes when you're shooting in a small space, you don't have the luxury of having much space where you can just throw around your equipment. So our view is just find a small corner where you can just pack up all your equipment, and if you need something, it's all in that corner where you don't have people stepping on soft boxes, lens caps, and you know that all your stuff is just safe in that corner. And then get there a little bit earlier. So we find it that if we're there a little bit earlier, we can just suss out the place where we need to move furniture. We've shot in places where we needed to move the couch outside, where we need to move fridges, and just getting there like 30 minutes earlier just actually helps a lot. So yeah guys, that was our 5 points for shooting in small spaces. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, and follow us on the socials. We'll put this somewhere down here.